Thanks everybody for joining today. We've got an interesting topic on environmental consulting. We're looking at the GIS trends. We start off the new year with a panel discussion to start to get some input from our customers and the people that are actually doing GIS work in the environmental industry. My name is Mike Acallo. I'm the technical director for the AEC and environmental consulting here at Esri. And I'm joined by my colleague, Mehmet. Mehmet, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Yes, my name is Mehmet Siselmis. I'm the Esri account manager for the AEC and environmental consulting. I come from environmental background and GIS.
So today we're going to cover a little bit of Esri's focus from an AEC perspective, and that includes environmental consulting, and kind of looking at how we're renewing that focus. Then we're going to have a panel discussion. We've got a number of industry leaders, which we'll introduce in a moment, and have a more in-depth conversation around what they're doing. If we have time, we'll do some Q&A, and then ultimately we'll do a little bit of wrap up and talk about where we go next with this group. So before we get started with our panelists, I want to talk a little bit about how Esri is shifting its focus and really concentrating on AEC, and that for us includes the environmental consulting industry. So AEC is architecture, engineering, and construction, and environmental consulting. We know that people call it a lot of different things, ECP, AEC, et cetera, but we had to pick a name. That was the name that industry-wide seemed to make the most sense for the consulting industry as we know it. And it also includes for us, and we want to make sure you understand that, the environmental consulting industry. So we recognize, and this is why we've put a lot of focus and actually built the AEC sector, is that you guys are supporting a number of markets, right? Transportation, oil and gas, natural resources, state and local, et cetera. Industrial. There's a wide range of things that you all do on a day-to-day basis. And your real focus is solving problems. You're consultants, right? You provide solutions and services to solve these problems from environmental or water supply or the built environment type problems. And how that's coming out for many people, it's starting to take form in the form of solutions. So people are starting to say, well, what is a solution for infrastructure or mobility or defense or EH&S or sustainability? And people are building solutions around this area. We also recognize that you guys go to market with services, right? So you are consultants. You work for many of our existing customers in a lot of ways. So you need to be looked at a little bit differently. You're more project oriented, you're more service oriented, you might be more solutions oriented. So we've got a really wide net that we have to cast and understand when we say that we at Esri are going to focus on you, AEC and environmental consulting firms. So for us, we boil it down to what this is our vision that we kind of came upon and really structured as of last year, right? So we're looking to enhance the digital and business transformation of the AEC and environmental consulting industry. And we do this by first extending location to improve the productivity of project teams. We recognize that your focus is around projects, project deliverables. So first thing we need to do before we can go any further is help you to do that job more efficiently. Second, we want us to help you start to realize that there are many new industry solutions that can be chased after and gotten and accomplished as you start to think about the industry in a digital way. And then we want to support the creation of new revenue streams. So if we start to unearth new services, new solutions that start to open up new revenue streams, and ultimately at the end of the day, as an AEC or an environmental consulting firm, you're driven by project and project billability and revenue, right? So this will help you to establish those revenue streams. So just to ground what we're doing and help you guys understand where our focus is that we start to say that we're concentrating on 4 specific buckets this year: design and engineering, environmental consulting, construction management, and asset management. And out of that, we start to dig into them a little bit deeper. So for environment, we're looking at environmental permit and planning. We're looking at site assessment, restoration, and remediation, environmental construction, and environmental management and compliance, or sometimes the strategic environmental consulting. And what we noticed when we started to build these focus areas out is that they align with our broader AEC focus, which is often plan, design, build, operate, but it does it very specifically in the environmental field, right? So we're planning, we're designing things, we're building stuff, and then we're operating or we're supporting the operations of environmental solutions. At Esri, we start to think about them from a solutions area perspective, right? So we're looking at field and reality capture, project delivery and management. GIS and BIM is a big thing, maybe not as much in the environmental consulting, but I think we will see it become more so as construction and new solutions come to bear. And then ultimately digital twins, and that's kind of the far-reaching direction that we're heading in as we start to bring these solutions together. And of course, we're here, we sell software, right? That's our focus. So how we accomplish that is through our core products, which you all are familiar with, I'm sure. Some may not be, but ArcGIS Enterprise and Online and Pro. But we also have some very specific point solutions like SiteScan or Velocity for doing IoT or project delivery. And coming this year, we'll have GeoBIM. So there's a lot of things that we develop that are very specific towards the types of activities that we do in the purple boxes above. And then, of course, we have a number of additional things that pop up from time to time, like GeoAI and professional services that we provide. That's how we come to you, and that's what we're selling to you in order to accomplish your goals. So I'm actually going to flip this over now. I'm going to ask Mehmet to join us. And Mehmet, will you kind of introduce our panelists and dive a little bit deeper into the conversation from their perspective?
Sure, thank you. All right, so we are starting the panel discussion. Just to give you some background, I come from environmental background, and what was the use of GIS initially in the environmental field? You may have seen this graphic a while back, maybe 15, 20 years ago, like I did. So at that time, we needed some tools and technology to help with our environmental work, from the planning perspective to site assessment, remediation, and identifying the constraints. So GIS has been a great technology to organize, analyze, and visualize data. So that's been a great tool and technology. So as you may know, many of the environmental scientists and engineers, they took GIS classes during college, and sometimes they took after, and they learned about GIS. So GIS has been a critical component of environmental consulting at the time. We have 5 panelists today. The first one is Brad Aegis, Senior Project Manager from Tetra Tech. Second panelist is Janine Latham, Geospatial Technology Director and Community of Practice Lead at Western Solutions. Third panelist is Scott Woods, Director of Geospatial Services at SWCA. And the fourth panelist is Jenny Byron, Senior Project Geospatial Lead at Golder Associates. And the last panelist is David Cleland, GIS and Data Services Manager at GES. And our first panelist, welcome, Brad, and please introduce yourself and your company and what is affecting the environmental industry the most from your perspective and how GIS can solve some of the challenges you're facing.
Okay. Thank you, Mehmet and Micah, for moderating, and Esri for the opportunity to speak today. It's an honor to join these distinguished experts and speak to you. I'm coming to you from my home on Great Island along the coast of Maine. I'm a GIS professional and professional wetland scientist, and I have a master's degree in marine biology. I've taken a lot of Esri classes and GIS courses and trainings since graduate school. I spent the first 6 years of my career doing academic underwater research on temperate and coral reefs around the world, at which point I started my environmental consulting career at 2 engineering firms in Maine in 2004, first as a GIS analyst and biologist, and then as a marine and wetland scientist and director of GIS. I have a strong background in natural resource surveys, geospatial data management, and environmental permitting projects, which leads me to Tetra Tech, where I've been for the last 10 years. I'm a senior project manager focused on geospatial solutions and renewable energy project management. Tetra Tech is a consulting and engineering firm focused on water, the environment, infrastructure, resource management, energy, and international development. We have 20,000 employees in 450 offices operating in 120 countries across all 7 continents. So this leads me to the panel question of what's affecting the environmental consulting industry and how GIS is applied. Tetra Tech will utilize the full suite of Esri products on behalf of our clients to solve complex problems. At a high level, many of our projects are impacted by climate change. I see this as two major categories, falling into reactive and proactive solutions, and I'll highlight a few of these examples. The need across our projects is for rapid real-time data collection and analysis and having centralized and authoritative visualization. For automated and mobile data collection, we're focusing on collector, survey 123, workforce, field maps, and drones and unmanned automated services. For our data visualization and management, we're primarily using web maps, story maps, and operational dashboards. We rely on these for creating a common operating scheme for our users and clients. So on the reactive side is our emergency response to disasters such as disease, hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, oil spills, and fires. For example, we're currently hosting real-time COVID statistics for several local, state, and federal clients using operational dashboards. In 2019, we received the Esri Special GIS Award for data management for the EPA in response to the devastation caused by Hurricane Irma, as you can see in the top dashboard. Another great example is a response to the tragic Camp Fire in Paradise, California, where we managed the deployment of thousands of field workers to assess areas for vegetation replanting and to take soil and asbestos samples. And then on the proactive side, we're addressing the energy crisis with renewable energy, green infrastructure, and sustainable development, which all aim to mitigate climate change impacts. Here in the top left, you can see a map of hundreds of Tetra Tech's wind and solar projects across the US, plus thousands of miles of transmission lines that have been built. Wind projects are further broken down into onshore and offshore areas. The need to leverage the power of GIS software is crucial in these giant projects, as evident in our offshore energy projects, coordinating the offshore wind teams, submarine cable, and terrestrial permitting and survey teams, client needs, stakeholder engagement, and meeting the large number of local, state, and federal agency requirements and permits for successful interconnection and power generation. So with all of these big and small projects, GIS is the backbone for our data management and visualization. Overall, I see these proactive and reactive responses to climate change to be a continued focus for the environmental consulting industry. Back to you, Mehmet.
Thank you, Brett. It's great to see the shift of the environmental consulting industry becoming more proactive than reactive from your examples. The examples were great, and especially in the green infrastructure and sustainable development areas. I think we'll see more of those trends in this year and in the following years. Thank you. We'll move to our next panelist, Janine Latham from Weston Solutions. Hi, Janine. So, can you talk about yourself, the company, and what is it affecting the environmental industry most from your perspective, and how are you using GIS to solve those challenges?
Sure. Well, thanks, Mehmet, for asking me to be a part of this panel. And Esri, I think leading up to this, we've all been pretty excited to get into these discussions. So like Mehmet said, I'm the Geospatial Technical Director and Community Practice Lead here at Weston. Weston is a 1,000-person employee-owned environmental and infrastructure consulting firm, which, like everybody else, we focus on bringing innovative solutions to solve our clients' most challenging and complex environmental problems in the federal, state, and local government spaces, the industrial and commercial spaces. Specifically, our GIS and geospatial solutions have been part of our core business practice that we've been applying for our engineering, investigation, emergency response, time critical, and compliance projects across the country, I would say for more than 30 years, longer than I've been at Weston. You know, GIS is such an exciting and necessary service for our internal and external clients here in the environmental industry. It's really fun to watch and be a part of, you know, being able to give our clients the ability to visualize, analyze, and then access their data, really touch their data in an efficient and visual way is really driving better planning and decision making across our industry. As our community of practice lead, it's been fun to see how many people across our company. We have about 90 people in our practice that are touching GIS in some form. You know, we do things from desktop mapping in the 2D and 3D for surface and subsurface data management, analysis, modeling, reporting, all those things that you see up on screen right now using GIS technology. As well as we have some extensive expertise in bringing all that to the ArcGIS Enterprise platform for a variety of our environmental data streams. We could create that list forever, right? So, but we're talking about, you know, analytical and sampling monitoring data, emergency response planning data, geophysical, MET, QXO data, can go on, right? So I've been at Weston for almost 17 years now, the majority of my career, and I've grown up in my GIS career specifically in emergency response and applying enterprise technology to our time-critical projects. Started with Katrina in New Orleans in 2005, where we were really creating PDF maps and posting them up for the client 48 hours after we collected that data, right? Giving our incident commanders preloaded MXDs so that they could brief incident command from a you know, an MXD with turning on the labels and things like that. Now to most recently, where we're supporting the wildfire responses in California and Oregon, where we're turning around property information instantaneously with tools like we've heard, you know, Collector, Survey 123, Enterprise, data management. We're using drone imagery to make real-time decisions for project planning. And then the reporting, having that interactive dashboard, story maps, web viewers, you know, to help our operations plan, but also help our clients be transparent to the public and expose their data through these story map applications and things like that. So it's been really fun to see how the basic principles of GIS have evolved with technology. Now, as technology has evolved, as has the increased speed in which data can be collected and made available to our clients and through data services and technologies like sensors and increased satellites and things like that. So both us as consultants as well as our clients are finding ourselves in this information and technology overload. You know, what data services do we use? How much data should we collect? Really focusing on data quality objectives now more with the increased technologies. What GIS technologies should we use, right? There's so many out there to choose from to either collect, manage, integrate, or report our data. With this, we have an increase in clients too, as both internally and externally, you know, needing to operate now and take a full advantage of the ArcGIS Enterprise platform, right? And so this means additional server administration needs, authorizations of data and security models, optimization of those data services and tools. You know, that's a real challenge facing our industry. So while our clients are asking us to filter out the noise of the data and the use of the technology, we're trying to figure out ways where we can be more efficient and safe and effective doing this. So recently, we've been taking advantage of our expertise of working in the ArcGIS Enterprise platform, especially in our ER, where we're fast-paced, time-critical, defensible data management, you know, workflows and things like that, and combining that with Esri's AEC project delivery subscription services so that we can create spaces for our clients and have them own their data as well as just scale the tools that we need for them. So here on the left, you can see we're taking some of our air group's real-time air monitoring data being collected every minute, right? We have multiple sensors out there being collected every minute, and we're filtering that data down and reporting hourly averages and dashboards here and summaries in the story maps, you know, just spanning that month. But it also gives the user the ability to dive into the data if they want to with that interactivity. And then on the right, we're seeing here where we're taking data sources that are available from all over and we're integrating them and presenting them in a way such that our clients and the public can make informed decisions here for where and when there might be flooding if a weather event were to occur. So, you know, enterprise technology has really pushed the innovation and efficiency and compliance across our service lines, but at the same time, in this fast-paced industry, it's really changing and challenging the way we're doing business in a good way, but challenging. So we're focusing on trying to figure out how to use the enterprise to better serve both our internal and external clients. Thanks,
Thank
Mehmet.
you. Thank you, Janine. Thanks for mentioning those challenges, especially environmental data and information management overload, and how you manage data and how GIS can help there. And also mentioning the real-time field monitoring and like similar to flooding, flood mapping and all that. So great insights. Thank you. Our third panelist is Scott Woods. He's the Director of Geospatial Services at SWCA. Hi, Scott.
Afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Mehmet, and thanks, Micah, for the opportunity for being here today. I guess I'll just start off real quickly by just answering the question, and then we'll walk through some examples of how we're applying GIS to solve those problems. Really, to answer your question, I'd have to say that really you've heard it already in the first two panelists, the demand to collect and share information, spatial information, GIS data, large volumes of data, as many of you are aware of, internally across our organization and externally with our clients in near real time is really the challenge that we're facing. One of the greater challenges that we're facing in the environmental consulting industry, that ability to tie field operations to desktop and both within our organization and externally with our clients. So in terms of a little bit of background about SWCA myself, SWCA is an environmental consulting company. We're a nationwide environmental consulting company, been in business since 1981. We are 100% employee owned. Today, I think we're a little over 1,100, close to 1,200 employees providing full service environmental services to our clients out of 36 different offices across the country. As you can see here on the screen, SWCA provides, we serve a variety of markets in the environmental industry, and we provide a whole host of services, if you will, to really support our clients in navigating their environmental planning, permitting, siting, compliance efforts associated with their projects. Myself, I've spent probably the better part of most of my career, 25 years or plus, primarily in the energy and utility industry, really helping our energy and utility industry clients in their environmental planning of facilities, the siting of those facilities, permitting, and then again into the compliance aspects. Once those operations are being constructed or in operation, we provide a variety of services in terms of monitoring, whether that's from restoration efforts that we did throughout the project. We're providing a variety of client compliance there. We work both in the public and private sectors, and again, if you kind of look at the markets and you look at the service, it really again is really just all really a common theme, in that between the markets and the services we provide, we're really just there to try to help our environmental consultants navigate those environmental resources and the regulations that are applicable at both that federal, state, and local level. Again, our challenge is really just is simply managing information and distributing it across our organization. And one of the challenging aspects that we have as a part of our work is that much of the work that we do as an environmental consultant is offline. It's in extremely remote areas, and so the need is Janie and Brad indicated about real-time collaboration and sharing. We have some challenges in terms of acquiring data, bringing it back into the field, redistributing it to our clients, and sometimes it's full circle where as that information is brought into our organization, we're making decisions from that. In terms of how we are really using GIS to meet these challenges, we are leveraging the full suite of the Esri software platform, from the ArcGIS Enterprise portal, desktop, web, and mobile platforms. We're new into the AEC space, so we're looking to take advantage of the AEC project delivery subscriptions as an alternative tool that we can use to not just build data for our clients, but then turn that information over at the end of the projects more seamlessly. What you see on screen here are just a really couple of examples of what we've been doing recently as a part of our work. In the upper left-hand corner, we're really enjoying the opportunity to use ArcGIS Enterprise hubs and sites. It's providing to be a really powerful platform for us to bring that collaborative nature to our work. As our data comes out of the field, we're able to streamline how we are distributing that data through something as simple as a hub site or a dashboard. Much like the other folks here, we are using dashboards and story maps of the like to convey project information in more of that real time. One of the middle example there is just a dashboard showing providing our internal teams and our client on a large engineering project, construction project, where we are at with our surveys so that we can help synchronize construction activities with our survey efforts. As some of the other folks had mentioned, the power of the web is really transforming how we deliver our services. And as folks had mentioned in the past, we used to use PDFs and upload to the web, but now being able to take that operational data and put it in the hands of our decision makers is really really changing the game for us. And in the example in the lower right hand corner, it's simply being able to mesh the massive amounts of environmental data with our engineering project facility data so that both us as an environmental can understand the impacts to the based on that project, but also our clients, agencies can see how things are shaping up. The upper hand corner is a little tool that we've recently started using. I work with a team of amazing GIS professionals, and I'm a director of geospatial services, so my job is not as technical as it used to be, but our team is working and doing amazing things, trying to really improve our collaboration. And that example in the upper right hand corner, it's not an ArcGIS model, it's not a Python script, it's simply our ability, our attempt to map our data life cycles and connect that to the processes that are happening across our projects, documenting where data is coming from, where QA/QC is occurring, where deliverable products are being generated. And it's really just helping us better understand how we can distribute and manage data, both internally, and then it's also helping us communicate the value and power of GIS as a tool as we manage these large environmental projects. So
thank you.
With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Scott, for your insights. So you mentioned some of the challenges like offline remote work, data collection challenges.
Oh, yeah.
It's always a challenge there, and I think there's some solutions there in GIS, and also sharing data information with your staff and the clients, and with these dashboards. Those are great WebGIS examples. Thank you. All right, so moving to our next panelist, Jenny Byron from Golder Associates. She's the Senior Project Geospatial Lead. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Mehmet. Thank you, Esri, for the opportunity to discuss and engage with the panelists on some of the challenges we're experiencing in the environmental AEC industry. As you said, I'm a Senior Project Geospatial Lead at Golder in Massachusetts, and I support, as most of us do in our industry, a broader group of professionals in many different sectors. My background is in geology and GIS, and my experience spans government, education, and private industry for over 15 years on diverse projects in mining, infrastructure, waste management, and energy. Golder is a specialized global engineering and environmental consulting firm with expertise in infrastructure, power, mining, and oil and gas that works with clients to solve their most difficult Earth-related challenges. Golder provides independent consulting, design, and construction services in our specialist areas of earth, energy, and the environment. At Golder, one of the things affecting the environmental industry is integration of environmental data and environmental data management systems, or EDMS. As an AEC firm, we have to stay competitive, and we do this by taking advantage of the technology trends, which help us stay on that leading edge. On the environmental front, we're using GIS systems from field to office to give more intelligent data to our people in the field, creating immersive augmented reality experiences for clients and staff, and using webhooks, machine learning, geoevents for automation and efficiencies. As the other panelists have mentioned, our industry and us at Golder are strongly leveraging mobile data collection and reporting. The slow transformation from paper-based field data collection has accelerated over the last 2 to 5 years, especially in the last year, as access to centralized digital data has become imperative in a remote working environment. Coupled with this has also been the increased need to get the data out into some kind of a usable format, which typically is in the form of a report. This has been a space where we've been able to leverage Esri field apps with great success. So we are building and deploying hundreds of field maps via Collector. The Field Maps app, which is great because it combines Collector, Tracker, and I believe Quick Capture all together, using Survey123 to create smart forms to increase productivity and ensure data integrity, using webhooks to automate reporting tasks, providing visualization and interactive environments using the environmental portal system. However, with the success of using these apps, we're also integrating these information with other environmental data management systems, or EDMS, and this has not always been seamless. So while thankfully organizations have started to realize the value of their GIS investments and that we don't just make maps, we're being asked to find integration solutions or more applications into one system or output. And as GIS professionals, we're continuously looking to add value by connecting GIS tools to traditional business systems and expose information in a way that provides more intuitive decision-making and streamlined processes to create efficiencies that reduce risk and cost to our projects. But this is no small task. An example of one of these challenges and successes related to the integration of environmental and EDMS is a flood protection project involving soil tracking data management. Golder's environmental and spatial information management team designed and implemented a soil field tracking and data management system. This system considers soil management, environmental and geotechnical testing, and soil tracking, and it integrates field forms built and deployed using Esri Survey123, field and lab data collected and analyzed into EQUIS, automated electronic chain of custody, spatial data delivery via an Esri portal web map experience, decision support systems for approvals tracking, EQUIS site-specific criteria custom queries and the use of the REST API, and custom web development for full integration. For this solution, field data is seamlessly integrated into an EQUIS database, which compares the geoenvironmental, geotechnical, and horticultural data to site-specific criteria for soil reuse. The results are then automatically loaded into a web application where the system provides data outputs, recommendations, data summaries, and decision histories for all of the samples. At the same time, it provides near real-time geospatial mapping of sampling and soil movements. This system brings together an automated synchronization of many applications into one web page for easy stakeholder accessibility. It pulls from data securely stored and managed from the client, things such as drone data, as-built, Trimble data, as well as Golder data that we're collecting, Survey123 field data, EQUIS environmental and geotechnical data, Esri portal spatial mapping data. So as you can imagine, a lot of thought and effort went into integrating the different software, applications, workflows, and technologies. And it's a frequent project expectation in the industry that we're environmental industry that we're going to do this. So having environmental and EDMS solutions that work together and integrate well is incredibly important to our project and client success, and one of the major issues we deal with regularly.
Thank you, Jenny. And it's great that you mentioned that integration is critical for environmental consulting industry. And it's a challenge too. Not all the programs work together nicely, seamlessly. So hopefully in the future they will. So those are good insights. Thank you. All right, our fifth panelist, David Cleland from GIS. He's a GIS and Data Services Manager. Hi, David.
Afternoon, Matt.
How are you?
Doing well.
All right, same question. Talk about yourself, the company, the environmental industry, trends, and GIS.
Exactly. Well, first of all, thank you, Mehmet, Micah, and the Esri community at large for this chance to share a little bit about GIS, myself, and some of the GIS successes we've had. GIS is a rather small company. We're approximately 500 employees scattered across 29 national offices who are strictly environmental consulting. Our clients across oil and gas industry and local and state government are concerned with environmental impacts, compliance, water and natural resource projects, and my small team supports all of those offices. I'm bringing a geology and GIS education background with about 15 years in professional experience, primarily in the geotech and environmental consulting, to bear on these projects. And echoing the rest of my esteemed panelists here, really the item that is affecting us the most in the environmental industry is this need for efficient project work while we're incorporating innovative approaches and solutions that GIS and other technologies have brought about in the last decade and a half. GIS staff have become de facto database administrators. As Jenny mentioned, EDMS in the last decade really matured, and because some project manager heard a GIS analyst say geodatabase, they assumed we knew everything there was to know about database structures, the fact that we can read and write in SQL. These identified our team as leaders in this area, even if it wasn't our primary focus. That opened up the eyes of the project management teams inside GIS, that GIS was more than just a PDF map at the end of a project report. They started involving us more on the project planning and capture side, whether a project manager wanted to know about routing efficiencies of field teams if he had 500 sites to cover in 6 weeks, down to most recently viewshed analysis for drone flight cost estimates. Where are we going to put our pilots? How are we going to ensure that we're in compliance with FAA regulations? How do we successfully complete one of these projects and deliver what our client is expecting? So project planning became more of a front-end GIS experience rather than on the back end. Data collection has grown leaps and bounds beyond our Olympus digital camera and a field notebook now. You have your UAVs collecting massive amounts of data, providing a new platform to give us raw data for new or finer resolution analyses. You have field data forms that provide automatic validation, uniform entry across projects and project staff, and a way for office staff to verify a project's complete prior to the technician even leaving the site. With this gross increase in data, just the management process and the workflows required to successfully navigate those rapids has critically changed how my staff and GS as a whole approach a project. Now with these drones, we're able to pursue new types of projects, such as valuation of carbon sequestration and solar power potential for clients, or magnetometer studies on steep slopes for UXOs. These are things that GIS wasn't in the realm of a decade ago, and it's only because both technologies and GIS to support those projects has come to bear. And lastly, this dynamic deliverable. No longer is a paper copy map or PDF sufficient for our internal uses or our external clients' expectations. They expect the client to be able to ask questions of their data from what we give them, whether that's the raw data dump from the field forms that they can review and validate, or a streamlined dashboard showing the extent of task completion. So, thank you, Mehmet.
Thank you. Thanks for the insights here, David. And yeah, I liked your project planning phase to start with GIS, because that's the piece sometimes missing in some of the consulting companies. you got to start with a good planning there, then continue with the data collection and deliver it digitally at the end. Good process. Thank you. All right, so our next part is the Q&A. Micah, can transfer to you.
I'll take a couple minutes here to kind of go through a few questions. What would be the best way to share environmental data with clients? There's an awful lot of push around how you share information with clients. Can one of you guys elaborate? Janine?
We're trying to utilize the enterprise a lot more, right, through secure way of delivering that in the AGOL environment as well as the enterprise environment, through dashboards and story maps, and even the web experience builder, but really trying to use these reporting tools and visualization tools to analyze and present the data in such a way that the client doesn't have to weed through it, to summarize it and give that that analysis and visual representation in that 2D, but also putting that interactivity on top of that. So being able to filter environmental, analytical data against their RSLs in real time and allow them to create that analysis information themselves and work their way through their data. And it really gives them a sense of ownership to their data when they're able to touch it and interact with it through some of those products, so that they can make better decisions instead of us just sending them a huge PDF report and saying, hey, have at it. But we've had a lot of success in the interactivity of putting interactivity on top of their data.
Yeah, definitely. And Scott, I'll ask you this question. So what are the panelist strategies for integrating your own internal information, the data that you're creating with your customers, right? So how are you making that process easy for them? Oftentimes you guys are creating a lot of content. How are you ensuring that that content aligns with the client's end systems, right? Because they're the ultimate person that you're delivering that to.
Yeah. So whether it's on an environmental project in which we're working with a federal agency, or whether it's a private sector project that we're working on with clients, it's really that at the beginning of the project doing a really in-depth sort of data needs assessment and evaluation of who's holding what information and what that flow needs to be. And what we found in the past, we used to just do what we needed to do and just hand off a big dump of data. It's your data, go do what you want. Well, that's not the case anymore. Our data has to be seamlessly integrated into our client systems, or transferable right back into our federal agencies as authoritative data. So it's more front-end planning work and consulting, I guess, is helping us do that.
Thank you, Scott. How do you sell the value of GIS within your organization to make them understand what you're doing? Somebody want to take that hasn't responded? David's raising his hand up there. Go for it, David.
Really, to piggyback on what Scott said, a detailed data needs assessment upfront on a project that has clear goals and metrics in place, and then knocking out of the park on that, picking a small project that will have high visibility both to my internal clients as well as select external clients, and then just sort of reaping the rewards when that project's successful. But it really is a promise due sort of paradigm that you have to deliver on that, and then remind your internal project managers, hey, remember that project 2 months ago and how well we did? We can do the same thing for your project.
Right. Yeah, so making it a repeatable offering, I can definitely see that as being super critical.
Micah, can I just add to David's question? So one of the successes we've had is similar to what you're saying. You get involved at the early stage, but that you clearly define things and then you follow up afterwards. Our biggest success has been word of mouth. Finding those project managers and seeing if they're willing to do even just an internal article, share it around, talk to people, because that word of mouth has been so much more successful than sometimes trying to do these, regular lunchtime presentations kind of thing.
Yeah. What do they say? Everybody's a salesman. They just don't realize it. Right? Like you definitely have to sell that value within your organization. All right, so moving on here, just kind of wrapping up, what we want to do is make sure that this community, this is not just a one and done thing. We want to stay connected as a community. We want to continue to expand on our focus So there are a few questions and some comments that definitely help us to align what we're doing here from an environmental consulting at Esri. And we want to kind of talk about some future event discussion topics. We got some input from the panelists. We're really interested in topics for future panel discussions or future demos or webinars. We want to know what you want to know, right? So we want this community to be your community, one where you're talking to each other, and one where we're able to effectively communicate back and forth and try to keep it as interactive as we can, even given the times where we're all hiding behind a screen in our homes. So we had a couple topics like environmental, climate change is a big one, field data collection, real time. I heard a number of things about that. Drones is becoming very interesting, and digital environmental reporting, right? So getting those submissions kind of out in a digital fashion and starting to change the way things are done. Those are some of the ones that we've received from our panelists, and we're interested in hearing from you. And in that vein, we want to stay connected. We have a number of channels that we're expanding every day from an AEC and environmental consulting perspective. We certainly have our Twitter channel. Our LinkedIn channels are very active, and all of our account managers in the AEC sector are very active in this area, and we do have an AEC user group there. We have the GeoNet. The GeoNet has recently gone under a facelift, and we've got a number of different communities in there, industry communities, including AEC. You can see some information. I know there was some questions about project delivery and some other things that we'll get into more detail later, but there is good information about project delivery, and there is a good place for dialogue there on the discussion boards. And then last but not least, we have our aecinfo@esri.com. If you've got direct questions that are burning hot and something that popped up out of this presentation or feedback that you want to provide us, feel free to go ahead and send it there directly. Lastly, I'd like to say we do have a number of events that are upcoming, right? So big events that Esri sponsors that most people are aware of, but new folks to Esri might not be. Our Geo Design Summit focuses on that planning aspect of doing big projects and thinking about them more holistically and sustainably. This brings together that design and engineering and environmental kind of thinking. And it's really grown in popularity, especially because we're starting to think about urban planning in a different way. The Developer Summit and the Partner Conference are both coming up in March and April. They're going to be virtual, as one would expect, same with the Geo Design Summit. But for those of you that are already Esri customers and might be partners or developers that might be interested, these are really good opportunities to dive deep into the technology from a different angle. And then to our broader audience, the Esri User Conference in July, right? It's usually July 12th through the 16th. So with that, I'd like to wrap up. Mehmet, any last words you want to add?
Yes, yeah. So I think next step for the environmental GIS audiences, we're going to have another event. Like, we have a list of topics we identified. And for the audience, please let us know if you have any other topics that you're interested in, so we can schedule some events.
We asked, what can Esri do to support environmental consulting? And some of the big ones that really popped out at us are some of the obvious ones. Training. I think you will definitely see continued training, especially as we move from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. Integration, yes, we definitely hear you on the integration front, and we have an approach which we can dive into deeper when we talk about BIM and GIS, so stay tuned for more information about that this year. But our GeoBIM approach is very much an integration approach, and a much bigger integration approach than we've done in the past. Simplify, I hear that in some of the questions as well, right? Make it easier for us as people that are doing the work, and make it easier for us to sell it internally. So I definitely hear that as well. So this is really valuable feedback for us. We'll definitely take some of this forward and use it to kind of form up our topics. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. Thanks to our panelists.
Thank you, it was great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.